Good evening. This is Dr. Lopez, principal at Bravo Medical Magnet High School, home of the Knights. And today we have another edition of our Good Night podcast. And we have two special guests today again, and we will have a very interesting conversation about student life here at Bravo Medical Magnet High School. It is very, very exciting to welcome our two guests today. Our first guest is Maya Bristow, and she is the president of the GSA. GSA is the Gay Straight Alliance. And we also have Sol A, and she is the vice president of the GSA. And I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to ask you, did I use the right pronouns? No. And so I apologize. What are the correct pronouns? Because that is a very important piece of this conversation, actually.
I use they, them pronouns.
I also use they, them.
They, them. Good. So welcome, Maya, welcome, Sol. It is a pleasure to have you here. I think I've had a number of conversations with student leaders of different clubs at Bravo Medical Magnet. And the idea is that we want to talk about your club. We want to find out what the club is all about. And we also want to give you a space to further your objectives, right? Make progress towards achieving your objectives, because I think more students can benefit by knowing more information. So I'm going to start right away, because I can speak forever, but I don't want to. I want you to speak. I'm going to give you I'm going to give you an opportunity to let us know what GSA is all about. What does the club stand for?
Okay. So GSA stands for Gay Straight Alliance, or Gender Sexuality Alliance, as we like to call it. It's a little bit more inclusive. And we aim to create a safe space within Bravo for queer kids and trans kids.
Also for straight allies or those who want to show their support towards queer kids.
So we just want to create a sense of community.
And do you think that it is an important club, that that there are needs that we have here at Bravo that are being met, and then therefore is it really important to have a club like this, an organization like this?
Honestly, I think it's really important that GSA exists, because there are a lot of families here at Bravo that are people of color, and normally, due to tradition, a lot of families aren't agreeable towards those views of LGBT.
Mm-hmm.
So having GSA makes it a safe space for other queer students to feel more acceptable here and feel like they're not alone, and that there are other kids who are struggling with that same problem. Mm-hmm. And they're able to fit into a community where they don't feel odd.
And even the kids who don't end up joining GSA, sometimes just knowing that there is a space for them here at Bravo is just very helpful.
Do you think that as a community, as a school community, do you think that we're doing enough, or that we should be doing more?
I think that the school community has been really very kind towards the school. There has been I've seen on the second floor restrooms, they're gender neutral restrooms there, and I think that's a really nice touch there.
I think, yeah, there definitely could be some parts that are improved, going back to the bathrooms, it's good that we have gender neutral bathrooms, but the fact that they're mainly for teachers and that students sort of have to be the exception to be able to use the bathrooms is a little difficult, especially if you're not willing to be out just to be able to use the restroom that most matches your gender.
That's an important point. I think it's something that we can look into. Are there one of the most valuable things that happens when we have conversations like this, especially about topics that can be controversial and difficult as this, and they shouldn't be, are stories, right? Stories, personal stories of friends who have shared those stories about being a trans kid, a gay kid, a queer kid, or even just a supporter, right? In some cases. What are some stories that you think people maybe can benefit from knowing that can learn and become better at being in a community?
For me personally, throughout my life and here at Bravo, I have found a lot of acceptance, especially within queer kids. But I do have many straight friends who are very helpful as well, and they do things like they ask me my pronouns. They make a space for me to talk about my experiences as a queer person, and like my gender and stuff. And that is just really, they're really supportive in that way, and that's very kind, and I like that. I think that's a good important part.
Thank you. That's good to know. You know, as a principal, I hear stories not just at Bravo, not just in the community, but nationally. We have a lot of things happening that affect the LGBTQ plus community. What are some of those things that you've heard maybe that affect our community?
Our community, normally in like California here, it's very accepting, to be like very LGBTQ friendly earlier. But in other states, like in Florida, there are a bunch of like dangerous places where I don't think queer kids are allowed to exist at all. Like the trans bill, I think that's what it's called.
Anti-trans bill, yeah.
Anti-trans bill.
I think there's something called the Don't Say Gay bill.
Yeah, that's one things. There's a lot of laws that are prosecuting, especially trans kids, queer kids as well, like the Don't Say Gay bill.
Mm-hmm.
But trans kids are especially being attacked right now. Like, I think, like, it's not just in Florida, it's all over the country. But in Florida specifically, it's bad. Like, they recently made a bill saying that, basically bringing the law against cross-dressing back, which we haven't had for a very long time, I think, at least in US. And it's like, if you wear different clothes than the gender you were assigned at birth, it can be counted as a sex offense. And they've also recently voted that a sex offense is punishable by death. So now being trans in public can be punishable by death.
And that is regressing back years of progress that we have seen as of recent. You know, we thought that with the legalization of gay marriage by the Supreme Court recently that we were making a lot of progress, and all of a sudden we're back to some of the more repressive rules and policies and laws. What are some things that you think as a community we can do about that, or are we just subject to whatever happens?
I think something we can do, I'm not sure if this will be able to help. The most I think we can try to do is like hope for the best, but also like show support to those in need, that they're not alone, and they'll be able to get through this.
Mm-hmm. And speaking up and protesting, it's like our state is pretty safe, but especially just making it known that like this is not what the people want, this is not what we want, is, I think, it's important for lawmakers to hear that people are not happy with this, that this is not something we want, because the people who want these laws, the way they've gotten it is by being very loud above the voices of actual trans people and queer people. And, sometimes it's not safe for people to be loud about, like, trans and queer rights. But when it is, it's very important, especially for straight people as well, as they have that privilege that they won't really get in trouble for it as much. It's important to speak up about it.
I think speaking up is a key tool that we have, right? A key, I don't want to say weapon, because It has bad connotations, but it is a key tool that we have to be able to lobby and make our beliefs and our values worth. I recently invited the Office of Equity and Compliance to train our staff to understand and better help and be there for students in the LGBTQ plus community. So they came out and they did a training for about an hour and a half to all of our faculty members so that they would be able to work with our students. What message would you want to give our teachers? Even if it's a good message, right? Even if they're doing a good job, I think it's sometimes is important to let them know that they're doing a good job, or that you would still hope to see things in the classroom.
Honestly, I'm very grateful for the teachers who have been very respectful, but also just ask for pronouns as well. I feel like that's very important, and it can just make someone stay just doing that.
Yeah, I think our teachers are pretty good at this sort of thing, that they generally create a supportive environment. I think that there could be improvements made to be a little more inclusive, this is just a little thing, but not saying boys and girls, for example, is a very small thing, but there are a lot of small things that sort of add up over time. And maybe it doesn't seem like a lot to you, but it might make someone stay. It might make someone very happy.
Thank you, Maya. You know what? I sometimes I take things for granted too myself, like my assumption earlier today. And so, yeah, those are the language can be a very powerful tool too. And so it's important for us to be aware. And so thank you for that. Are there any other things that you think we can talk about? Other questions or other suggestions for me as the principal, right? The bathroom is sticking to me right now. I think that's something that I need to look into. But are there any other things that you may think we need to discuss? Even if it's something that we can discuss that can help other school communities to be able to deal with this. So how do we do it? How is it that Bravo allows for a safe environment for you? How can other schools do that same thing?
I think just not really I think some schools have it, GSA clubs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great way to show support. But some classrooms I've seen while walking around have pride flags of support, the ally. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just a great way to know that, hey, you're not alone, people support you.
Yeah, I think that in addition to there are a lot of things that have already been people have been doing for me that I've noticed that I'm very thankful for. For example, I'm allowed to leave my backpack in the office instead of having to use the boys' or girls' locker room. That's been very helpful for me, and I hope that is something that continues, even though I know it's not official school policy or anything. Little things that people have done, just been cool about, they've been very helpful. Or even I in the fall I ran for Duke for one of the school dances, and I actually did win, so I'm very happy about that.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. And I think that pretty much no one mentioned that there was a couple people who did mention, oh, don't you mean Duchess or anything?
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, people were pretty cool about it, and I really appreciate that.
Great. Well, thank you. This has been a great conversation. I think the other objective that I would have for you is, what message would you want to give the rest of the students at Bravo to join or to just be supporters of the club?
Honestly, just check it out. I'm pretty sure that you can make friends there.
Yeah, we have a
find
lot
better
of fun.
community.
And it's not always just connected to like we're not always talking about specifically queer stuff. It's mostly just a space where, you know, you can make friends, but with the added, like, helpful, like,
With more people?
no, but like like it takes away a barrier that many queer and trans kids have with making friends, which is like the assumption that you have to like come out, that they're gonna think you're straight or that you're cis, or they're gonna assume your gender. It's all pretty much, or it's not all taken away, but it's definitely a good step towards like not assuming that sort of thing. So, you know, it's like a safe space, but we have a lot of fun there.
Yeah. What is an activity that's coming up that maybe we can all be partaking?
Oh, we're gonna play a Jeopardy game when we come back. I found a little generator that we can make Jeopardy games on, so we're gonna have fun with that.
Well, thank you. It's been exciting to have them both here, Maya and Sol. And hopefully, maybe in the future, we can invite you back after you've done a few more things. What grade are you in, by the way?
I'm in 10th grade.
10th grade.
I'm in 11th.
11th grade. So at least one more year, right? For Maya, 2 more years. So thank you, everyone. This has been another edition of the Good Night Podcast. And we hope to see you again for next week's podcast. Have a great night. Be a good night.